After I lifted off the body, I had to maneuver the chassis out of the garage. This took a little more effort than I expected. With the forklift, I lifted up the chassis so that I could move the wheels in the desired position. After a lot of back and forth, I managed to get the chassis out. I've pushed the chassis outside. I'm now gonna clean it first with brushes to get all the leftover sand off, and then I'll use a pressure washer with hot water. I actually picked up one last week, second-hand one that's diesel powered, especially for this. So I'm curious to test that out and see how that goes. But now let's get to cleaning. My dad decided to come by and help me out a little bit. Good father-daughter experience cleaning up my very dirty chassis. Even after I dry iced it, you can see that there was still quite a bit of dirt jammed in between. Here we have our new second-hand pressure washer, diesel powered. So yeah, now let's get to blasting this thing and see how clean we can get it. Let's see if I can get my red block red again. It's oil colored at the moment. This is just pure satisfaction. The dirt blew straight off. I also cleaned the transmission, some paint blew off as well, so I'll very likely give it a new fresh coating of paint so it looks all nice and shiny again. This is what it looks like after the first wash down with the power washer. It's actually red again. It looks a lot better than it did before. I'll definitely clean it some more still, but yeah, pretty happy so far. I mean, this is such a difference with how it used to look. Even the leaves, I mean, there's some rust on them, but you can actually see the metal again. So that's pretty cool. I also noticed that I'll have to redo the entire rear bumper. The previous owner really didn't do a good job. As you can see, the paint just kind of chips off, unfortunately. And I also have a front bumper, but I took that one off already, so I'll be sanding those down or send those away to get them like blasted and then treat them again. And maybe I'll give this a lick of paint as well. But yeah, this is starting to look pretty nice. Today we're gonna start fixing up my chassis. It's a bit rusty in some spots, so I'm gonna start grinding this down right now and then we'll see what's underneath. Hopefully it's not too bad. I started with the spot that looked the worst. This is on the front left of my chassis. As you can see, the grinder's blowing a ton of rusty dust around, so that's not a good sign. I've been grinding away at this bit, which is by far the worst spot on the chassis, and yeah, you can see it has rotten through, so that's not great. I'll continue like grinding all this down and then I'll decide what to do. It will definitely need welding, but I also might get it galvanized, but that's something I have to decide. After consulting a friend of mine who welds, I decided to move ahead and remove the entire reinforcement strip. It's rusting in between the strip and the chassis, that's why I'm removing it in its entirety. In order to remove this reinforcement plate on top, I'm gonna grind through all of these welds, and that will hopefully make it slightly easier to pull this off. You can already see here I'm grinding through one and it's somewhat coming off, so I hope this will work. But yeah, lots of work to do because I also need to do the other side. Here I'm just grinding away at the plate. This is by far the most time-consuming job. I luckily didn't discover any major rust. The worst spot was by far the one in the front. Underneath here, the chassis looked in really good condition actually, so I'm pretty happy about that. After I grinded through the welds, I slammed the chisel in between to lift up the plates. The trickiest part was trying not to damage the chassis while I was cutting through the welds. Now cut through all the welds. It's still welded together on the other side. But what I'm gonna do is I'm kind of gonna cut across in sections like this and try to bend this flap upwards, and then hopefully I can cut through the welds on the other side. Otherwise, yeah, I have to remove the engine and the transmission, but I'd rather, you know, first try it the easy way, and otherwise I'll remove it. But so far it's going quite well. I think I cut pretty clean through the, only up front bit bummed I messed this up a bit. It's not the end of the world, but the ones I cut after those are way nicer cut. But have to learn somehow. So yeah, that's what I'm gonna be doing now. I took the engine out as I couldn't bend the flaps the way I wanted to, and I just didn't have good access from the other side. I didn't want to risk like cutting into any parts of the engine with the grinder, so yeah, I've removed it and put it on a pallet for now. Wrapped this around it and then lifted it with an engine jack. It's pretty cool to look at it from this angle as well, not completely out. It's so much cleaner than it used to be though. This was all black, you couldn't even really see the Volvo logo. Now this is visible again. Volvo Beaver, the engine. Maybe in the future I'll have electronic injection put onto it. That would be pretty cool and gives it some more horsepower, and it will make it a bit more economical for me to run as well. But yeah, it's pretty nice to look at, and now I can continue grinding. Once the engine was out, it was so easy to grind away the plate from the other side. I should have pulled out the engine immediately. It only rests on 4 mounts, so it's pretty straightforward process and it saves me a lot of hassle. Today I'm gonna have some help from a friend with some welding and grinding on the chassis. Leon and I got in touch over Instagram and he came to help me out. It's nice to have someone with experience help me. He's a welder by profession, so he really knows what he's doing. He then proceeded to show me how to weld. Here he's welding a cut that I made while I was grinding away the old reinforcement plate. I cut slightly too deep, so he's fixing it for me. Here's the plate that's gonna replace the hole in my chassis. Leon first tacks the plate into position. He does this so there's less chance of warping. Double checking. After he was satisfied with the position, he continued to weld the plate into position. It was really cool watching this. He then did the same with the reinforcement plates. He first tacked them into position and then continued to weld them. The welds are done in the original pattern. We have the finished result. These are the new reinforcement plates welded in the same way they came from the factory. The big hole that you saw in the video, it was underneath this part, so there's another plate under here that's 5 millimeters thick, which is the same thickness as the mother material, and then the reinforcement plate went on top of that, and the reinforcement plate is 3 millimeters thick, which is the same thickness as the old reinforcement plates. So yeah, this is done now. I'm gonna take it even further apart because I want to get the chassis blasted, like sand blasted, or have it dipped in an acid bath so all the stuff that's on it, all the rust basically gets removed. Eventually I hope to get the chassis galvanized. I'm now gonna inquire what the costs are gonna be roughly. I'm not sure what's better to do, the sand blasting or have it dipped in an acid bath. I guess the pluses of the acid bath are that it also cleans out the inside of the chassis. And then yeah, hopefully after that I'll have it galvanized. But first I have to pull it apart some more, but that should be fine. It's not that much work to just get the chassis out. That's it for now. I'm gonna continue working. Thanks for watching and I'll catch you on the next one.